Welcome to the Build with Boundaries podcast. My name is Mahnaz, and this podcast is for high achieving women looking to grow without sacrificing family and life. Discover what's missing and making you frustrated, and what's most important for you to achieve the success that you truly desire. All this without compromising the most important things in your life: your time, your family, your values, and your aspirations. So let's dive into today's topic.
Hi everyone, welcome back to another episode. I have Sarah Evans as my co-host today. We are co-hosting this episode, which is a case study on a recent client who we worked with, and we are going to talk about this connection between their human design chart and their core values. So we will in a moment share what the chart looks like and also what the core values are. And Sarah and I have we're going to go over some of the sort of foundational pieces of the human design to allow you to see what that actually means. And then we will connect that to the values. I think it's such super interesting work. And we've done this before, Sarah. So welcome, Sarah. Would you like to say hello and please tell the listeners who you are?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it's great to be back here again talking about our favourite subject. Yeah, so I'm a coach and trainer, and I specialise in using core values to find who you are, what makes you tick, to give you guidance on making decisions, having clarity on what the choices are that you need to make in your life. So, so obviously Mahnaz and I, we work together with your Harmony Quest and for your clients, and as part of that, I did some work on uncovering their core values, which is kind of central to the way I work, which goes a bit deeper than normal. And we drew out the 5 core values of this client, and then Mahnaz, you went on to work with her to kind of put them into practice and build on that.
Yes, absolutely. So for those who don't know, my work is more around the human design aspect, and this is where we bring this magic together, because the core values and the human design are 2 different ways of really understanding who we are, finding our strengths, and really that uniqueness, what makes us different and what makes us, how we're wired, and ultimately like what is so ingrained in us. And it's just beautiful how it comes through in human design. And that's what I love about it, because even though it's based on astrology, and even at one point in my life, I thought, oh my goodness, well, this is astrology. This is just like nonsense. It's just made up. It's not real, until you don't go into actually looking at the aspects that the chart reveals. It can be really profoundly impactful, as it was for this client. And then it combined with the values work that Sarah did, we are now going to show you what the core values of this case study was, and what the chart looks like. And it's just so interesting to see those real life examples. So we're really excited to talk about this. So where I want to start with, so with human design, we have different types, and there's not like tons of types. And if you want to know more, definitely check out the human design playlist, where I go through more of the kind of foundational pieces, and that will help you see what kind of types there are. But for this case study, we are talking about a manifesting generator. And in brief, what a manifesting generator is, it's an individual who is multi-talented. Like, they are just natural ability to have an initiate and to create lots and lots of things, and do it with great ease and efficiency as well. So this is like their superpower. And they're a combination of 2 other types, manifestor and a generator. So what that means is that their energy works in a different way. It's actually a combination of the other 2. And right away with this client, what I found was, as soon as I saw that they were a manifesting generator. It made sense for some things that I had already practically seen. And I'm sure Sarah will agree with me here. In terms of someone who is skilled at doing many, many things at once, like I think it was very obvious for this client that I could see that there was this kind of just natural ability that they did that. And I wonder if that came across to you, Sarah, in your first sort of few initial interactions as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I worked with this client before you'd done the human design work. And so for me, seeing the human design chart and the explanation afterwards was like literally every single thing that came up. I was like, yeah, I saw that. It's really, really interesting. And yeah, I think the energy of the manifestor, like she is somebody who is, full of energy, and you can really, it's very tangible, when you talk to her. So, I think that really came across, and also her ability to juggle lots of different things and kind of, spin lots of plates at the same time. So she is, I think the idea of kind of that multi-talented and efficient, effective kind of person, I think really sort of, came through.
Yeah, definitely. I couldn't agree with you more. So let's talk about the profile type, because these are a combination of two numbers. And I think this was, again, really powerful for me because I'd already worked with this client. So I already knew her quite well. But to see, I had never done her human design, and neither did she know what it was. So I think this was, again, like, oh my goodness, this is definitely, I've got the right chart. I haven't made a mistake here. It just made sense. So let me share with you what it means. She's a 3-5, which is a martyr heretic. And the words don't mean anything, but I will explain what the underlying, I think understanding what is behind those words is important. So what a 3-5 will do is they embody the spirit of sacrifice and rebellion, and they're willing to endure challenges and hardships for the sake of growth and progress. And they often demonstrate this through a strong sense of resilience and determination in the face of adversity. At the same time, they possess a rebellious spirit and a natural inclination towards innovation, challenging the status quo and inspiring change. And I think here, like that whole, like juggling so many responsibilities, roles, duties, even like caring for people. And what was really lovely to see here is like it even uses the word resilience, and that is her top core value. As far as I think, it's one of the top core values that she has. Yeah, it is the top one, isn't it? Yes, Sarah. So like it just naturally, that's like if you like the foundational piece, this is how I'm seeing it. And it just sits so well. So what do you think, Sarah? What was your take on it?
Excited when I saw that. It's because to me, I think it completely sums up this client's personality, the way the idea of sacrifice and the resilience, and actually with both human design and looking at core values, that there are no there's no kind of judgment or hierarchy on what are good or bad, types to have. But what was interesting is that the idea of resilience and the element of sacrifice in that had become a problem, which was kind of part of the reason that this client, was looking for help in the first place, because there were lots of elements of sacrifice in terms of her own life and choices, trying to manage and be resilient, looking after other people particularly, but also that the conflict in her was that this rebellious streak, this kind of real desire to kind of be doing and wanting to do more and having that connection, which is one of her core values. That all of those things coming through, you could really see in the profile type where the conflict had come from. and why she was kind of stuck in this, bit of a pattern in terms of struggling between the two elements. I thought it was just absolutely spot on.
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't agree with you more there. The sort of pressure of having all these people to look after and feeling like she just, everything had to be done and she had to be the one to do it. That is sacrifice and rebellion. I think, we might think rebellion in a kind of negative way, but rebellion is also about that resilience and being able to still, even though all the things that look like I can't do this, and still trying to not trying to, but actually like I am going to do it, and being very, very strong willed to do it. And I see that in her as well.
Yeah. I think what was interesting,
and I think
go on.
No, carry on.
I was going to say what was interesting as well in the values discovery process. Part of that is looking at the stories from your life, to see the evidence of where the values have shown up. And rebellion, which tied very much to kind of freedom and freedom of expression, I think were really kind of came up a lot in her life. So you could see again at this point where she'd come to, looking for help, that part, that kind of heretic sort of part of her profile was really kind of squashed, I think, because of the weight of the sacrifice,
yes,
of the challenges that she had in terms of particularly caring for other people. So you could see it. It wasn't just in the moment. It was, you could see it come up in the stories from her life.
Absolutely. And the same with human design. When we were doing the work in human design, which we did in through different kind of layers, if you like, because there's just so much information to absorb. And this is like the first thing. This is like the first level, the highest level. And even in that, there was just so much. And for her to be able to see that this is actually how my life has played out now, and it makes complete sense. Like, it was adding a piece of the puzzle. And even though she'd already done the core values work, this gave her, like, it's almost like having a slightly different slant on the same thing and reconfirming. And yeah, I think another thing that you've mentioned is, like, resilience is our top value, and it's having that, like, so strongly in you that that positive trait can then almost suddenly become a bit more detrimental to yourself. And obviously that makes sense why she came to us and she wanted help, because she could do what she was doing, but she could see that it was something that she wanted to change, and she didn't want to continue on with this kind of like this cycle and this treadmill that she was on. And she knew she had to make change, but she just didn't know what it was that would be helpful. So let's talk about the main energy and the main kind of characteristic of this person, because what happens with your human designer, there is one particular date that will be most relevant to you, and it will talk about you in a way that you perhaps have never really looked at yourself before. So for this person, the gate is the gate of gatherer. Again, this is like so innately her. Like, we can both see it and we're both smiling and we can picture her. So let me tell you what that means. If you have this as the gate, that is the main kind of builds the main characteristics of you, if you like, then you have a natural authority. You're a guide who's here to oversee the future and wealth of your tribe. You have an ability to gather people together and gather what they need. It can be helpful to have someone working for you to manage or managing your affairs, as you may not necessarily want to get your hands dirty. And your challenge here is to actually share and use your resources for the greater good of the whole, and to teach as a way of sharing. And just in that piece, it's like this tribe, this connection, this real, like, wanting the best for your people. That's well-being, and whether that's wealth, again, can be in any shape or form. Our health is our wealth too, and our, prosperity or success or whatever it is that it means for the person. So I feel this is really honing in on those strengths. And again, the resilience plays a part, because you are doing something that's quite demanding here.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that the area, some of her other core values were, like, one was connection, one was stability. And I think they really came into play along with resilience in terms of that idea of natural authority. She's, a mother, a grandmother, a carer, and a successful businesswoman, and a guide where it says, she oversees the future and wealth of your tribe. And I think her family was very much a tribe, that went before everything. And, the connection she had, it was feeding her the connection, the value of connection, but also because of the element of sacrifice and giving so much to that, she was losing connection, or the types of connection that she also needed outside of that tribe. So it was quite interesting. And also the core value of stability. So again, that family foundation gives her stability, and again, it's understanding that you've got that push pull, you looking after that, and looking after your tribe, looking after your stability is really important, and will make her feel great and give her the core value of well-being, which is another one of hers. But taking that too far without building in your own need for what gives you stability and you connection and gives you resilience, builds your
Yeah.
If you don't do that, then it's just going to deplete your energy. And I think that's again is just like absolutely spot on in terms of, what she came up with the human design.
Absolutely. And what I'd like to add to that is that I saw this. Her tribe was all the connections she had.
Yeah.
Her tribe, for me, I could see her in different spaces, even outside of her family, where it was really important. And that includes her clients.
Mm.
And it's interesting to see that this is actually what, if we defined what she did for her clients, ultimately it was about their future and the wealth of them as well. And that makes complete sense too. So I think there are just no coincidences in what your human design chart says. And when you see it laid out on paper and read it in a way that you have never, ever looked at yourself, I mean, it was really transformational. For this particular person, it was really emotional to go through all of this, because to see yourself as somebody who is, that spirit of sacrifice and rebellion. And, we can all see those words in different ways. And that's why I'm always talking about what's underlying those words and understanding the meaning. But to really lay that out and then talk about it and guide her through what that means and how it is, like, it was very emotional for her to even see this. And obviously once you've seen it, then you can't unsee it. And it's sort of starting this journey of acceptance. And that was really beautiful, because, she said herself that, she's never seen herself like this ever.
I think you can't undo that ability to, make sense who you are, to make sense of things, sense of why you feel the way you do. And it is about acceptance, but it's also a huge relief that you can understand the reason for it. So you're not battling, in your brain trying to think, well, why can't I do this? Why can't I be this person? It's actually to understand what drives you at your core, then you start to accept yourself. You start that journey then to actually accept who you are and not fight it,
Yeah, absolutely. And actually see yourself in a way that, I mean, we're saying using the word acceptance quite a lot, but really what that ultimately means is we're okay we are fine as we are. And I think what's beautiful about the work that we're doing together is we can showcase that and really share with them how unique they are. And through that, it's also like you're perfectly perfect in terms of your design. Like it doesn't matter what numbers here, what's here, like this is you. And that's really has been very, very powerful.
Yeah, absolutely.
So for this case study, we've got 4 channels here. So we'll see which ones we or jump out to us that we want to talk about. But the channels are the links between these big shapes. So they're connecting 2 shapes together, and it's a full linkage rather than just going halfway. And the first one is channel of synthesis. This is channel the 4919. And this is the ability to be sensitive to the wants and needs of your community. So this just brings that whole community. It's that stability. It's the well-being. It's most likely to be the honesty too, because that is what a community needs. And the core principle here is fairness. So that honesty really comes through there for the way that I'm seeing it as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and also the fact of that being aware to of the wants and needs of your tribe, and again, whether that tribe is, your clients, your family, the things that you have to do, was, I think, being her ability to really kind of pick up and be very aware of what people need is a great strength. But again, and again, this came up in the human design, being careful not to overextend that actually just giving and giving and giving that is a recipe for burning out. And so you have to
absolutely.
And by understanding that, you can actually put breaks in place to actually, support.
Yeah.
So you could really see that in terms of well-being, which, as one of her core values. And I think this is part of the reason why she kind of reached out for help, because she could see that her well-being was suffering, and that is an important driver for her. So you could see that core value was not being met currently. So having this understanding of why then gives her the ability to put things in place to support well-being, knowing that that you need it. You've got to have that. It's not something kind of wishy-washy that you think, oh yeah, it'd be nice to do this. It's actually, you need it.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, totally. And do you know what, Sarah, with this client, what I found, and I was really surprised, was that the amount of time that she put into herself already was actually way more than normally I would come across people. So what was really interesting was that had she not done that, she would have been in a completely different place. So she was already doing a lot of things way more than an average person would be. But that allowed her to do what she was doing. But then she was still recognizing it wasn't enough. And so we then had to work on the well-being aspect in terms of her finding out what she needed and being able to make time for that, because she needed more. Because she was giving so much, and that's both to clients and family, and being the main carer as well. It's really hard work. It's not one for a day or two. It's like this kind of infinitely looking after everybody, including her grandchildren as well, and playing such an active role.
Interesting you say about injustice and fairness. Which I think, is a thread in her life again, that it's something she's very aware of and fights and will, and has the resilience, has the strength to kind of stand up for things when she knows that something's got to be fought. And, so it's based on principles and stuff, but also I think, her core value of honesty, I think is again something that comes through in that she sees, and you see that quite often where, honesty is a core value. You have no choice but to protect it and stand up for it, in place.
Yeah.
Again, it's not something that, and by not doing it, it's detrimental to you. It's not just a kind of case of, well, morally, what's right and wrong. It's deeper than that. And I think that comes through in her human design as well, that, she needs to kind of have that sense of fulfillment from her honesty and her ability to kind of stand up for what's right.
Absolutely. And I think next I want to cover two of these channels very briefly, because they are both speaking to very much what we've just talked about. The channel of mating, which is 59.6, and the channel of surrender, 26.44. Now, both of these, the channel of mating is about this ability to create those connections with people very quickly. And she's a very social and very easy to talk to and to build those relations and break the barriers down. And that's obviously served her because of what her strengths are. She has to do that. Because of the work she does, she has to do that. And then the channel of surrender is instinctual ability to transmit messages and information to others in order to support the well-being of your tribe. And again, this is like a real essence of that nurturing energy and protecting your tribe, looking after them, caring for them, thinking about their future, what's good for them. And I guess with that, it comes that honesty of like what is actually right for them, coming from it, from that point of view. But for the last few minutes, I want to talk about the last channel, because this is slightly different now, channel of transitoriness. And it ties in with everything we've talked about, actually, because this is the ability to be versatile in many diverse situations and positions, because this person is a jack of all trades with many, many different skills and talents that you've picked up through life experiences. And this just goes back to that kind of martyr, the number 3 profile, which is the sort of self-sacrifice. It can be a self-sacrifice if you're not careful, but it is about learning through experiences and just jumping into them for the joy and the learning that experience will give. And I think we can see that in her as well. So I'd love your thoughts on this.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, like you say, because she has such a varied, life and life experiences, and that element of rebellion, that is that almost a kind of, she's not risk averse, in terms of taking chances and going for things and not scared, if something doesn't work out, she'll go for it. And I think that you could really see that. And also you could see, I think, because again, that balance of the sacrifices and the reliance on her resiliency had become too much, so usually it wasn't allowing her to have that fun, to actually express herself and be a bit rebellious in trying new things. And because I think that her ability to just naturally fit into whatever, situation she's in, you can really see that through life experiences and also currently in the work that she does.
Absolutely. And it also ties in with the number 5 line that we talked about earlier, which is the heretic, which is about, going in with this solution focus, being solving the problems, because that's what you need to do when you have a tribe to look after and you want only the best for them. You're constantly finding solutions, you're finding things that are fit for purpose and doing them. So again, I think it's great how you pointed out the risk side. It's like just jumping in, because that risk for that person, they don't need to be worried about the risks, and therefore they don't. And that makes complete sense for the work that they're here to do and live the life that they are supposed to be living, and the purpose and all of those reasons. So this has been a wonderful episode. I've loved chatting about this. It's so beautiful to see all these things in the chart. What do you want to end with, Sarah? Is there anything you want to touch on?
I think, this is, for me, it's so interesting to see that extra layer of knowledge, of this client.
Because you never saw the human design, and you've literally only seen that now as we record the episode. So what's it is, she does the core values at the beginning of the program, and then I take on the human design element, and then we work together for the rest of the period. So this is the first time that Sarah's actually seen this for
It's,
it.
And it's really, it's very comforting to me to kind of see that they are, they're very aligned, that you can really see where the core values or, show up in that, and that actually we're also complex. There are lots of layers and meanings, but also it boils down to something really simple as well.
That's it. That's precisely it. I think that's it. We can have all this information about, well, this is me. But when it boils down to it, if we just focus on the foundational pieces, we can apply that, we can implement it, we can use it positively to make it, to enhance our life for the future, to make sense of the past. And I think that's what's beautiful about connecting this together, because you get like this whole picture. So thank you so much, Sarah. It's been wonderful once again to have this detailed conversation and actually share with listeners what this chart looks like. So if you're listening on the podcast and you're curious and you can't see the video, then hop onto YouTube and have a look at the video there. Thank you so much, Sarah, for your time, and we'll see you in the next episode.
Thank you. Look forward to it.
This podcast is for you, so reach out and let me know what you thought about this episode. You can find me on LinkedIn and Instagram, where I also share valuable content. If you enjoyed this episode, then hit the subscribe or follow button on your favourite podcasting platform so you never miss another episode. I can't wait for you to join me for the next episode of the Build with Boundaries podcast.